to the point about the Bengals, they would have been my first pick if we're looking at Super Bowl futures. The favorite to the Packers at plus 380, Chiefs plus 475, Bills plus 7.5 to 1 for Buffalo. Interesting. 8 to 1 for Tennessee, 8 to 1 for Tampa Bay, 9 to 1 for the Rams, 12 to 1 for the Cowboys, 18 to 1 for the Bengals, 20 for the Pats, 22 for the Cardinals, 25 for the Niners, 40 for the Raiders, 60 for the Eagles and Steelers to win the Super Bowl. When we did a show, we did a CBS HQ show last week, looking at the same odds, similar odds. I thought Bengals at 20 to 1 stood out to me. Still stands out at 18 to 1.
100%. I mean, because you at least feel like they've got the easiest path in the AFC to get there. So whether or not you want to make, lay down the 18 to 1 odds for them to win it, or even 8.5 to 1 to win the AFC. I mean, again, I think those are favorable odds given the position they're in. Sometimes too, you get those teams that they haven't been there before, but that's okay. Like sometimes it's good to not know what you don't know. You go in there and you play loose, you play free. You're not like the earlier Cincinnati Bengals, the Andy Dalton, where it was like every play matters because we're trying to just win one of these things. Like there was just always something, and you could feel so much tension about it. And so, you go in there, you play loose, play free. I look at the rest of the AFC, by the way, and again, it's no disrespect to the Titans. They're obviously the number 1 overall seed, but they're not the favorite to win the AFC. It's the Chiefs and the Bills first ahead of them. And I think it's because Derrick Henry's a question mark. Okay, so he comes back and plays in the divisional round. What does that look like? How healthy is he? What's his workload? Do you think the defense can really stop in this hypothetical Cincinnati's passing attack or running the football for that matter? I don't think they can match up. And then I think you look at, the other thing about Tennessee is their passing game. Julio Jones really hasn't provided much of a factor. A.J. Brown has, but, we've seen them too not put as much pressure on Tannehill in the playoffs. And so if he gets in there, can he deliver? Can he match, what you're probably going to see from Cincinnati and the way they sling the football around? I just think those are big question marks, for everyone else with the exception of the Bengals. And so I think they're the most easiest path, great odds if you're looking to land money on one of these teams.
Agreed completely. Fun fact for you. The Bengals playoff drought. Do you know the last time when their last win?
Boomer Esiason.
What's that?
Boomer Esiason.
Yeah. Their last win in the playoffs was a wild card victory, 41-14 over the Houston Oilers.
Yep.
The next game they lost, and that began their lengthy playoff drought. Here's the fun fact, though. It was January of 1991. They lost 10-20 to the Raiders. And they lost on John Breach's 9th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, so Breach has basically had 30 years of it's not really
31.
Years. Yeah, 31. But they didn't go back to the playoffs for 15 years. So they finally get back in 2005, 2009, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good Lord, that's so painful. So a pretty huge game for the Bengals. But I do agree with you that I don't think this gets treated as, the ghost of Andy Dalton is haunting us. I think it gets treated as Joe Burrow is a bad AMFer, and he's going to go out there and light up the Raiders in what is really ugly weather. Supposedly it's going to be 37, 35, snow on the ground. You know who doesn't play well in cold weather?
Are you going to say Derek Carr?
I mean, statistically, he does not play that well in cold weather.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, you know where Joe Burrow's from? Ohio.
Yeah.
Grew up playing it, man.
Oh, do you buy into that? You buy into that,
sure.
right?
Yeah, for
It was easier for you to play in cold weather because you grew up in it, right?
Dude, I think most of my wins were actually below 40 or 40 and below, literally. Which I don't know how much of a correlation there is to that. I mean, honestly, it wasn't you think about that sort of thing, but it's you do, I think, adapt to it a lot easier throwing a football, understanding what it's like to throw a football. I mean, hell, I remember playing basketball in the wintertime outside, and understanding how to do things when your hands are numb and you're cold and there's wind and there's all these other things. So yeah, I definitely think it plays an advantage to guys who have experienced that, grew up in it, and have dealt with it, because they walk outside and it's nothing different for them. You get other guys, and I'd played with other guys who were quarterbacks where when it got windy, and they came from a nice area, California, somewhere like that, where they're not windy very often, they struggled. Like they struggled to understand how to play the wind, how to, almost like a golf shot at times with the way you're shaping some of your throws.
I'm trying to find the freaking. They've been so hard to do the stat filters that I can't find the weather filter. But yeah, I mean, I do think that. I mean, I think it matters. I mean, I think it matters. When you look at like Derek Carr coming from cold weather. Is he? I mean, coming from warm weather his entire life? Went to Fresno. Plays for the Raiders.
Now, I mean, yeah. It definitely matters. I mean, it all matters, obviously. And that stadium too, there's a bit of wind, the way it whips through and all that. So it's not even just the obviously passing game; it's gonna be a kicking game too. So just going back to the initial sentiment though, if you're looking at one of the teams in the AFC, I think Cincinnati's that team that it's worth the value. Outside of that, again, it's hard to.
All right, so in 2020, I'd have to look up. This is remember they beat the Browns. It was that windy, cold game. Raiders win in Cleveland. It was in that stretch where there was a bunch of like wind, like Baker. It was the 2020 season. Carr had been just 1 of 10, averaging 204 yards per game passing, with 9 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in games where the temperature was 45 degrees or colder at kickoff. I think he has won his last 2 of those, so he's now like 3 and 10. But that's still not, still not ideal. Like it's a guy who, he's going to have to get some help from his defense. And if the Bengals come out slinging, they could advance. And like you said, if the Bengals win, they're not guaranteed to play. They could potentially play either Kansas City or Buffalo if one of Kansas City or Buffalo loses.
Correct.
But in that scenario,
because they would end up paying, and that's again. But we're assuming all favorites win moving forward, right? As far as
but I'm saying to your point about the easiest path, if there is an upset, then like the Bengals is the 4 seed. Let's say that the Patriots beat the Bills and the Chiefs beat the Steelers. The Patriots would play the Titans and the Bengals would play the Chiefs. But in that scenario, you still only have to play one of the Bills and the Chiefs. It's just whether you get them in the divisional round or in the championship game if you're the Bengals and you hope to advance. And then you would get the Titans or the Patriots in the championship game if you beat. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably where it's consensus, just the best value on the board at 18-1. I'm going to take some of that.
Best value, I would say best path to a Super Bowl in the AFC picture as we sit right now.